welcome to Tuck Talk with me, Emerald. So, it's been a while. It's been a minute, and I know it's been a minute, and I apologize. There has been a lot going on, so I'm just gonna jump right in. So, as most of you know, across the country, there's been an uprising here in Charlotte after an unarmed black man, Keith Lamont Scott, was killed by police. And, you know, people went out into the streets and started protesting. And then, as those of you who know me personally know, I was out in the streets protesting. And so it's been a crazy 2.5 weeks. And I just want to give y'all an update. If you don't know what's happened, again, an unarmed black man was shot. He was in his car waiting for someone. Police, you know, were fucking with him. And then eventually ended up shooting him, citing that they felt like he had a gun. The community and his family maintains that he was reading a book, waiting in his car like he normally does. And then protesters went out to the neighborhood and protested and got into some clashes with police officers and riot gear. And then the next night, we went out again and got into some clashes, and this was uptown in the epicenter, if you know anything about Charlotte. And that night, Justin Carr was actually shot and killed. He was shot and then he died the next day from his wounds. So a protester was out. Somebody was out there in the movement with us fighting for our liberation and was shot down. And the CMPD, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, maintained that another protester shot him, a young man by the name of Raquan Borum. But those of us who were there, who have video out, who were wiping his blood off of our friends and off of ourselves, know and saw that he was shot by CMPD in riot gear. So within about 3 days of one another, CMPD killed 2 unarmed black men, one of whom was reading a book and the other who was exercising his constitutional right to protest. Chief Putney, the police chief here, they did not want to release the videotape. Chief Putney assured the public that he was sure that watching the tapes that you could feel the imminent threat that the police officer felt before he shot Mr. Scott. And then finally Mr. Scott's wife released her cell phone footage of it, and that's just not what transpired on the tape. And then CMPD released an abridged version with little sound. Again, no gun was explicitly evident, and so of course, I mean, it's just been a long couple of weeks. Let me tell you what we want and how we're moving forward. One, we want for Raquan Borum to be released because he is being framed for the murder of Justin Carr during our protest when it was absolutely CMPD. So that's one thing that we want. Two, we want for Chief Putney to step down because he is lying, he's covering up, he's spoon-feeding the media ideas about what's going on here. I'm sure a lot of you saw on the media that it was violent, that it were riots, there were race riots, and like the city was burning to the ground. But then if you watched my videos, you saw that if anybody was violent, it was the police, it was the law enforcement, that the National Guard came and occupied our city, that we were under a curfew, but that those of us who were out in the streets protesting, that we were peaceful, and it was law enforcement that instigated and agitated any signs of violence. So you can kind of see how, like, Police Chief Mayor Roberts, they're feeding the media this narrative that's completely not true. So we want Putney out, we want Raquan Borum out, and we also want for anybody who was arrested during this time, any of the protesters who were arrested during this time, to have their records cleared and expunged, because it's a mess. So that's the update of what's going on here. Thanks for all the support for me, for anybody who was out in this liberation movement. We will continue to fight for it. And I am just, as much as I want to give up on the human race sometimes, being out there and seeing the love and compassion and the determination of the people who are around me, it means it lets me know that we can make this happen, right? Like we can be this movement and make this happen. So shout out to everybody who are these freedom fighters and these justice seekers. I love y'all with everything in me. Okay, so I'm going to be pouring some tea and lemonade and other beverages, but a lot of it, so I have like a lot of pop culture news and gossip to kind of touch on. So just bear with me. So first, I know I already talked about Nate Parker, and I get that, like, the movie just came out, but I just want to say again, don't go see Birth of a Nation. While I agree that Nat Turner's story is extremely important, I also know that I cannot condone or support somebody who can't take responsibility for their actions. You know what? Nate Parker may not be a rapist, although I believe that he is. He may not be, right? I don't know all the facts, but what I do know is that him and his friend were in a situation with a young woman that caused her distress and ultimately caused her to take her own life. And he can't even admit and apologize to the fact that he took part in something, whether it was a rape, whether it was calling her outside of her name, I don't know what it was. He took part in something that caused this woman to take her own life, that left a child without a mother and a mother without a daughter, and so on and so forth. And he can't even own up and take responsibility for that. Like, that's not a grown man, that's a child, and I cannot deal with him. I just cannot. Also, the reviews of the movie have been horrible. Like, history professors are talking about how it's just really inaccurate how they play up rape in the movie, which is really interesting when you think about the fact that him and the co-writer and producer were accused of raping someone, and there's like a gang rape in there that didn't happen at all. Like, it's just really, it sounds like it's his life imitating his art, and that there are so many inaccuracies in it that it's not worth going to see. But what I will tell you, for those of you who want to support Black people in the arts and you want to learn more about Nat Turner, check out the book The Resurrection of Nat Turner. There are 2 parts, parts 1 and part 2. And it is written by Sharon Ewell Foster. She is an African-American writer. So not only is she Black, she's a woman. So you can support Black people. That's an artist. You can support a female author. And you can also learn more about Nat Turner. The Resurrection of Nat Turner, parts 1 and 2. Go check it out. Read it for yourself. Don't support Birth of a Nation. And I'm saying that. Don't support it. I'm not supporting it. I will not be watching it in the movies. I will not be watching it. I will not be renting it on Redbox. I will not watch it when it comes on HBO. I will make sure that Netflix gets it out of my queue when it gets to that point. I just will not. I do not like green eggs and ham, Sam. I am. Like, I just will not be doing it. So, that's that. Speaking of movies, so this week, a trailer for a new movie called Get Out came out, written by Jordan Peele of the Key and Peele fame, who is like typically a comedian, right? So when I clicked it, I was like, oh, this is going to be funny. Shit's not funny at all, right? It's about this interracial couple. The guy's Black, the girl's white, and she's taking him home to meet her parents. And basically, like, she's in this white suburban area, and like crazy shit's happening with the Black people who show up in this area. And I don't really know what's happening, obviously, because I haven't seen the movie, right? But white people is like really in their feelings about it. People are just talking about how it's not right, you know, to portray people like this, and like, why are we, you know, making it seem like Black people are scared to be around white people? Because we are. Like, let's be honest, right? Have you ever been afraid to be the only white person in a grocery store or at a meeting or at an event or anything? Because I have absolutely been afraid to be the only Black person in one of these events, and I have been of the Black person in one of these areas, events, arenas in my life. I've been the only Black person in a grocery store or in a meeting or wherever else, right? And it's terrifying sometimes because you don't know what people are going to ask you. You don't know what people are thinking about you. You don't know what type of retaliation may happen to you when you walk alone to the bathroom or you're walking out to the parking garage by yourself. Like, the shit's fucking terrifying. So the movie Get Out, all it does is play on the fears that we really have, because in reality, not in the movie, you know, not in movies, not in Hollywood, but in reality, in the past, white people, y'all have typically been the villain. I mean, when we talk about taking people's stuff, whether it be their land, their culture, their virginity, their humanity, it's been y'all. Or, you know, like, and I'm not saying, like, you particularly, whoever you are watching it, but, like, y'all know your history. So, it's really not that far-fetched to think that, yeah, y'all have been the villain, so maybe we are afraid of these scenarios. And Get Out just talks about how that's a thing that's real for us. It's a real fear for us. You know, think about that. On the flip side of it, right, Luke Cage is out on Netflix. Again, I'm super excited about this. So Luke Cage, first of all, can we just stop and appreciate the fact that Luke Cage is a black man who wears a hoodie who is bulletproof in 2016. A black man that's bulletproof in 2016 is the hero that we all need and that we all love, right? Again, white people mad on Twitter, on social media, talking about that it's not diverse because it's a majority black cast, and that Harlem doesn't look that way. First of all, Netflix and Marvel created a Harlem that is reminiscent of what Harlem looked like after the Renaissance in the 20s and the 30s, okay? It is a majority black neighborhood. You have black artists, you have black business owners, black politicians, you have black, teachers, you have black people succeeding and thriving. And yes, there's some crime there, like there is in any city, but like this is about like what Harlem looked like after that Renaissance that we saw with Duke Ellington and all them coming out of it. This is what it looked like before it was gentrified, okay? So you can be in your feelings all you want to about it, but like this is Harlem, okay? Second, you can't be mad talking about it's not diverse. I have a life, and sometimes there are not white people in it. I could be at my family reunion or in a specific part of town or whatever it is, and there may not be any white people in my purview of my life. This is a show. Luke Cage is a show about the black experience, and there aren't always white people in it. The same way I would bet money that as a white person, there are many times where there are no persons of color in your purview of your life. I'm gonna wait, because I bet there are many times. So how dare you be mad when there is an environment, when there is something put out there that shows the black experience and shows the good, the bad, the romance, the relationships of what it means to be black, and we also have a superhero in it, and you mad because you're not in it. Turn on any other fucking show. Turn on any other Marvel production. Watch Jessica Jones, watch Daredevil, go watch The Avengers, go watch Thor, go watch whoever. And it's going to be mostly y'all in it. So just calm down, okay? Let us have it. And it's fucking fictional. Like, get over it. It's a fictional show, okay? Get over it. Y'all make me mad. But Luke Cage, watch it. I'm 7 episodes in. It's really good. And Luke Cage, if you watch it, I'm always up for coffee. Wink, wink. Next up, Solange Knowles, Beyonce's little sister, although she's so much more than that. Dropped an album this week called A Seat at the Table, and it is pure perfection. Everybody thought that Lemonade was so revolutionary and talking about like empowerment of black women, and it is, absolutely. Man, A Seat at the Table may take it a step. It may be the next step. So big up to Solange for that. Just being a carefree black girl. Solange Knowles Ferguson, I do believe she is married now. I am just really excited about the album, and just reminds me why we love Solange. And she has a song in there called Don't Touch My Hair, which is like, that's me all day long. So thanks, Solange. I really appreciate it. Did y'all hear that Ben & Jerry's endorsed the Black Lives Matter movement? So, and again, of course, white people mad about this, talking about they're going to boycott the ice cream. That's fine. Boycott the goddamn ice cream. That's more ice cream for me to eat with my greedy ass. Don't eat no more Ben & Jerry's ice cream then. Because let me tell you what they put out there. They put out a tweet. They said Black Lives Matter, and choosing to be silent in the face of such injustices is not an option. And then they go on to talk about the systematic and institutionalized racism in this country. So thank you, Ben & Jerry's, for recognizing the movement and for being allies and advocates on behalf of Black lives. It means a lot, and you now will have somebody who is absolutely an avid supporter of your ice cream. And I have like some ideas for some new flavors, like White Devil's food cake. Like, it's just some funny plays with some things that we know. So get at me. So Donald Trump, I hate saying his name. I really do. The GOP presidential candidate has talked very disgustingly about women, throughout this whole thing. But recently he's been caught on tape talking very poorly about women and actually talking about sexual assault, essentially. If you don't know what I'm talking about, turn on the TV or the radio, and I'm sure you'll hear about it, log into Facebook. And I just have two things to say about it, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. One, if you can condone what he's saying as just like boys will be boys, this is how men talk in locker rooms, then you're disgusting, because this is not how men talk in locker rooms, and boys will not just be boys speaking in this manner. If you think that it's okay, then you think it's okay what Brock Turner has done and what any other person who has committed any act of sexual assault or rape against a woman has done, okay? Against anybody. Because that's the type of talk and that's the type of attitude that leads to action. So if you talk about doing those things and you're okay with actually doing those things, you're disgusting, and let me know who you are so I can put you in your motherfucking place, because it's fucking disgusting, and how dare anyone ever try to condone or be an apologist for that. Secondly, I was reading a tweet that Mitt Romney put out. Y'all all know Mitt Romney, and I liked his tweet the best out of everybody who's kind of talked about what's going on with this, and he's never been a fan of the GOP presidential candidate, but what he basically said was, it's deplorable, it condones sexual assault, and then he said, you know, our mothers and daughters and wives deserve better, yada, 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 right? And I like the tweet because he was the first person to talk about the fact that this is actual sexual assault, whereas other people were just saying it was disgusting. They weren't using the word assault, which is what it is. But let me say this. Mitt Romney did kind of upset me because he attributes empathy for a woman by attributing her to a man. And that's what a lot of people are doing. People keep saying, I have a daughter, and this could be my mom or my wife. Let me tell you something. If you can't feel empathy for a woman outside of attributing her to a man, if you can't feel empathy for somebody on their own autonomy, on their own humanity, then fuck you. Okay? Because I'm a lot of things. I am a wife, and I am a mother, and I am a daughter, but I'm also just a fucking human being. And if that is not enough to not want you to say that she should not be assaulted, she should not be raped, she should not be mugged, she should not be killed, or anything else, then you know what? Fuck you. And again, holla at me, because I need to put you in your goddamn place. Okay? So, fuck the GOP candidate. All right, I'm gonna keep moving. So my top story tonight is Kid Cudi, who is an artist, a musical artist, and actor, and he recently checked himself into rehab for depression and suicidal urges. He went on Facebook and he put out this like really open, heartfelt letter to his fans, and he said, in one part he said, you know, I am simply a damaged human swimming in a pool of emotions every day of my life. There's a raging violent storm inside of my heart at all times. And he talked about, you know, how if he didn't do this, then he would do something to himself. And he seemed really embarrassed about the fact that he was checking himself into rehab. And that may just be what I'm reading into it, but for those of you who haven't read the letter, you should read it. He just seemed like he didn't want to have to admit this, and he was really embarrassed by it. And I just want to say, you know, Cudi, like, there's nothing braver than admitting that you need help and that you can't get through this life by yourself, because it's fucking hard, right? Like, life is hard. And everybody here at Tub Talk, my husband, any friend that I've talked to, you know, everybody, all of your fans, man, we stand by you and we support your decision to do this. You are so brave and you are so appreciated for putting it out there, especially as a black male. And something that's come out of this is the hashtag #YouGoodMan. And that's just giving a space. It's as simple as it seems. It's giving a space for black men to talk about mental health issues, just talk about like taking care of themselves and their mental health, and the black community in general. So this goes into my social justice or bust, right? Unfortunately, in the black community, mental health is not something that we have typically talked about. And it's really frustrating, right? Because I think about the actual like generational traumas that we have experienced, okay? First of all, can you think about being a slave in the bowels of a ship during the transatlantic slave trade? And you come to this new land? Can you think about what that does to somebody mentally and emotionally? Then can you think about being a slave and knowing that your children are being born into slavery, and the idea is that your grandchildren are going to be born into slavery, and so on and so forth, and what that does over 200 years, over centuries? Can you think about what that does to somebody mentally, emotionally? then there's sharecropping, then there's Jim Crow, then there's mass incarceration, then there's drug addiction, then there's poverty. So think about all these things that black people have endured that would lend itself to needing some type of treatment for our mental health, and we don't talk about it. And I am a firm believer in prayer, okay? Anybody who knows me knows it. My shirt even says it. I love God and trap music. I do love trap music. But I love God, and so I pray. But I also know that God put resources on this earth for me to utilize, like mental health professionals. Okay? Prayer without works is dead, right? So you pray about it, and then you work to making it better. So I get kind of frustrated when I hear black people saying, oh, you know, just pray for him, he a little crazy, or just pray for her, yada yada yada. No, how about we seek out professional help for these people, okay? Because we're all going through it. The fact of the matter is, African Americans are 20% more likely to report serious psychological distress than white people are, our white counterparts, okay? African American teenagers are more likely to commit suicide, okay? African Americans are less likely to receive accurate diagnoses. But what's crazy about it is that in the year 2014, 6.8 million African Americans had mental illnesses that were diagnosable. 6.8 million. And we are not seeking treatment for it. Okay? Because we don't want to talk about it. Because it tears down our black men's masculinity. Because that's a white people's problem. Because whatever other fucking excuse that we can give up. But this is just simply not true. And I want the stigma to be erased from it. Okay? We have to take care of ourselves. We're dealing with a lot. We are dealing with mass incarceration. That takes a toll on us. We are dealing with poverty and lack of, adequate health care and an education system that's fucked up and rigged against us. We are dealing with those things, and in all of that, we still choose to not seek to take care of our mental health. That's something that is beyond me. So black people, I love you. Let's start taking care of one another. Let's start encouraging one another to take care of ourselves and our mental health, because that generational trauma is so real. And as we're out here fighting in these streets, as I'm out here getting tear gassed by law enforcement, I have to take a step back and realize how that's affecting my mental health. As I'm seeing somebody get shot down. Like, these are things that are real that we're actually seeing. So you think that I don't have to take care of that? Of course I do. And I want you to pray for me, but that's not the only thing that I need done. There's a hotline where you can call, you can get referred to specific healthcare services in your area. I'm going to give it out. It's 1-800-950-6642. 1-800-950-6642. You can call it, tell them where you are, tell them what's going on, and they will refer you to a professional in your area that specializes in whatever you need. Take advantage of these services, please. And a lot of people say that they don't go to mental health care professionals because they don't look like us. We do. We have a need for black mental health care professionals, and I understand that, because it can be hard to think that somebody would be culturally competent enough to understand what you're going through. I get that, and I know a couple of black women who are in the profession, and if you want their information, I'll give it out. I absolutely will. But also know that I understand that, and I hear that. I also know that you still have to seek out help, and that just means that we have to encourage our young people to go into this profession. Because we do. Just the same way we need teachers that look like us, and doctors and presidents that look like us, we need mental health care professionals that look like us. So I hear that. That doesn't mean that you cannot take care of your mental health. So that's all I really have. I'm going to leave you with the final thought. My final thought is this. In the year 2016, that's what year we're in? In the year 2016, 738 people have been killed by police so far. We've got about 3.5 months left. 738 people have been killed by police. Just to put that into perspective, that's just this year. Since 2001, so over 15 years, 2,384 soldiers have been killed in Afghanistan. So we are halfway, just about, a little under halfway, to the entirety of soldiers killed in Afghanistan in over 15 years. And that's just in 1 year for us. We need change. We need reform in our law enforcement. We need to figure out how to disarm and demilitarize our law enforcement and our police. That's my final thought, but I'm thinking about that all the time. I love y'all. I'm sorry it took me so long to get back. Take care of yourselves. I will be back next week. I will be more consistent. It's just been a rough couple of weeks. Thanks for all the support and for reaching out and the love. And as always, y'all, keep sipping.